Anderson. We are here to talk about next generation procurement, and we're going to give people a few minutes to pile into the channel here. So if you're in the channel, if you want to write your name and where you're calling or where you're joining us from, that would be awesome. And I just want to introduce myself, and then we can have Roy introduce himself as well. So my name is Lillevik. I'm the founder of Focal Point. I started this company about 5 years ago, and before that, I spent 25 years in procurement, working as a senior executive at companies like Fannie Mae, QBE, Webster Bank, Citizens Bank, and the like. And Roy, do you want to also give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. Roy Anderson, been in industry for 42 years. I had a decade with Raytheon in the military and commercial manufacturing world, with Textron as well in the space-based operations, and then moved on to services with Fidelity Investments as they were exploding in the 90s. Became the chief procurement officer at John Hancock, then moved on for a decade as the chief procurement officer at MetLife as they went global. And then worked with, started my own company called Go Procure, which is still around, still doing great work. And then now in my post-industry world, I spend my time teaching at Northeastern University in the supply chain program.
Amazing. So you're inspiring and educating young minds in the procurement and supply chain field.
Yeah, they're challenging too, those young minds.
I can only imagine. And us dinosaurs who grew up in procurement and supply chain back in the 90s, I'm afraid to say, started back then. The landscape and the discipline now has changed dramatically, and it continues to change. And we are looking forward now into what we are seeing as next generation procurement. So if you can go to the first slide here, Maya. Today's objective is to introduce the series of a bunch of webinars that Roy and I will be hosting. And what we're going to talk about is future-proof procurement in a few different things. So what that really means is there's going to be a series of topics that we're going to touch on related to future-proof procurement. And today we're going to give you an overview of how we see it going forward. So Roy, do you want to add to what future-proof means to you?
Oh, yeah. So Anders, as you mentioned, literally the first 40 years, we went through dramatic changes and started the whole digital process from a very paper-based solution. We were able to put in the first electronic data interchange programs, the first procure-to-pay systems, the first e-sourcing systems, all wonderful, exciting while we were there. Nothing compared to what's going to happen over the next 10 years. It's just mind-blowing how the agentic AI revolution is going to transform our industry and the requirement for us to have the skill sets to be able to meet those expectations. And the best part is the fact that, we all sit around the table going, hey, we have too much work, not enough people. They keep adding more to us and they keep cutting our staff. And now they're asking us to do the risk management and then get down to tier 2 and tier 3. And I personally believe that we have to rethink everything we do. Why are we doing it? Things have to be done, but they don't have to be done by us. So now it's an opportunity of having the technology do it, have the suppliers do it, have our internal customers take this action. And then most relevant is the fact that agentic AI is going to revolutionize what we do. And I suggest it is going to take over everything we do today, so that all of our future work is going to be that next generation, which is way more exciting and interesting than anything we've done over the past 10, 20 years.
Yeah, and if I can bore everybody for a minute, sort of the analogy that I used when I started in procurement, it was about saving money exclusively. So I worked in financial services, and we took categories of spend to market for the first time. We made requirements generic, and we sent out RFPs, and the coconuts were lying on the ground. Like, we looked like heroes because we can engage where we wanted, with who we wanted, and it was relatively easy. And then 10 years later, we had a shift in the industry. So we had Enron fail, we had Sarbanes-Oxley come in, and it changed the landscape, because now we couldn't cherry pick our projects anymore. We need to be engaged in everything. And the process became much more complicated and complex, because now you needed third-party risk, you needed to do control environment assessments, you needed to do financial stability assessment. So you went from saving the company money to saving the company from bad actors. And now in 2024, 25, we also have to save the world, because we have to make sure that we don't pollute. We got to make sure we don't hire slaves. We got to make sure that, all those things are just piling on top of each other, and it's becoming much more complex. And because of that, we now have some 400 plus procurement systems out there, and it becomes impossible to navigate. So now with the advent of orchestration and agentic AI, I think a lot of these things will become more streamlined and more easy to do, so that you can also save the world, and it doesn't sound as Herculean of a task as it might be today.
Yeah, we have to. What I find, and this always I get a kick out of, is the whole idea of strategic. Who's strategic and who isn't strategic, and even those that are the most advanced out there, and they're working on strategic sourcing activities in order to be able to select that final supplier, pricing, terms, conditions. You still are after the fact. I mean, the idea is the concept, the type of product or service that you're buying has already been decided. My issue is that if we want to be able to embed risk mitigation, embed competition, embed circular supply chains, if we want to embed that, we have to be in the design and development, in the R&D space for the majority of our time, so that we can actually align our suppliers, our first tier suppliers, and their supply chain to have a more robust, more resilient, more agile supplier base that's going to be able to handle the next generation of products and services that are going to support the company. It is there we are strategic. It is there where we're actually making a difference. And I don't want anyone to kid themselves. If you're just doing a strategic sourcing on a predefined activity, yeah, it's important, and it is good work, but it's not strategic.
I would like to say it's necessary but not sufficient to catch up with the parlance of our time, so to speak. So let's touch really briefly on future proof. So clearly agility and resiliency is going to be upfront and center as we continue to grow our infrastructure and put systems and processes in place. What are you seeing out there now that really excites you? What kind of?
Well, I mean, in terms of resilience, let's understand what we're talking about is the fact that impacts to our system. Our system is our supply chain. So impacts as simple as, let's see, tariffs. Let's see, wars around the world. Let's see, shipping lanes that have been stopped up because of terrorist attacks or because of droughts, as noted in the Panama Canal. We have very large global scale impacts to our supply chain. And then the question is, can we be resilient? Meaning, can we get past that particular impact and be stronger than we were before? Can we learn from this process? And what that takes is for us to be able to have the multiple supply chains that we can pull from and move our work appropriately around the globe to be able to support those impacts to our supply chain.
God, yeah, I remember it seemed like very long ago now, when COVID came in and we had to shut down supply chains and operations because we couldn't get masks and hand sanitizer, right? It was, who would have thunk that a car assembly plant shut down because we couldn't get masks, right?
It is funny. The Hackett review, for the first time, cost savings wasn't number one on their list, but actually sustainability, actually having continuity is the word. Continuity was number one. Can we get material into the factory or into the organization in order to continue doing the work that we needed to do? That was a wake-up call that says this supply chain can actually stop us. Where before they always said it was just a necessary evil. Now they're realizing it is amazingly important and necessary to continue operations.
Yeah, incredible, right? And to what extent do you see autonomy in terms of systems doing work on their own becoming part of the future of procurement?
I see it. Let's just start really simplistically. I would suggest to you that all of us have now put our driving lives into maps or Waze or whatever. And literally, we don't take a right or a left without it telling us whether we're going to take a right or left. And it automatically reroutes us when there's something that's happening in front. That is autonomous. That is not us telling it to go do something. It's telling us to go do something. So that then moving into autonomous driving, which is absolutely going to happen in the trucking industry is very quickly. as the aging truck drivers are aging out, that autonomous driving is going to take over. And that's going to happen as we move it down to the Uber drivers, taxi drivers, all that type of activity. But it is autonomous is look at everything that we do today. Can we discovery of suppliers, setting up an RFX, setting up a negotiation. All those are going to be autonomous. All of those are going to be done under our guidance, but not necessarily under our direct activity, because it's going to be, we're going to give it direction, it meaning the autonomous engine, the bot that we're dealing with, and it's going to take it to fruition. And the fun part, these things can do it hundreds at a time when we are limited to 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, how many times do you do more than 5 negotiations a week? How many times do you do more than 1? This thing can do 100, 200, 500. It will cover your entire C list that you never touched before, your C level items. It's going to move into your B level items. And then the idea is, can you move to your first and second tier suppliers to give them the support? Because I believe some of our biggest cost savings and innovation is going to come out of the second and third tier suppliers that we've never talked to before. I mean, some of the leading pharmaceutical companies have it down to the X tier. Some of the auto companies and the like have it down to X tier, but the vast majority of companies barely touch their A item suppliers, and now they're going to be asked to do A, B, C, and second and third tier.
Amazing, right? And I remember back when we started doing supplier management, we struggled to even figure out who our second tier suppliers were. And working in a bank and realizing that you are critically dependent on people or entities that you don't even have a contract with, right?
Right.
You have multiple single points of failure with that one subcontractor. And
we don't even know where those points of failure are.
Right.
And how do you mitigate against it if you don't even know where it is? The other point you brought up earlier was agility. We have resilience, now agility. It's like, how early can you get input to be able to make those changes? As I use the back to the Waze environment, as soon as that first accident, that first person on Waze goes, I'm stopping in the middle of the highway, it tells everyone behind it immediately, like, we got to find another way. So it's like, how fast can you find out that there is a problem in the Suez Canal? How fast can you find out that all your shippings, and do you even know where you're shipping from and how it's getting to you, which is now much more important in the manufacturing world. Now you have to know what's going to impact it, what our oil prices are going to happen, or what's happening in terms of border security, or basically this whole isolation thought process that is changing the dynamics of trade around the world. And it's happening and it's changing on a daily basis. How do we know whether it's going to impact us? And can we make appropriate changes in our discussion and our actions in order to be able to be agile enough to support the organization?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly agree any more than that. Last thing we're going to focus on sort of for today's discussion is around, all right, so now all these things are happening and we're going to become agile and autonomous. What kind of skill sets do people need? And what are we looking for now as we're hiring mid-level professionals, maybe starting professionals or senior executives? Like, how does that change the game?
Yeah, what I've seen, as I've talked to individuals that are actually using autonomous agentic AI type of activity, they need people that can see the bigger picture. They can understand the types of changes that are going on, the ability to leverage this technology more effectively. I hate to jump way back, but I mean, the people that were first able to do spreadsheets leap forward. Those people that are first able to do, simple programming languages leap forward. Those people that understood P2P, e-sourcing, marketplaces would leap forward in their careers because they were able to take advantage of that work rather than being afraid that, oh, this is going to take my job. It's kind of like, no, take my job. I want to go to the next job that is going to pay more and it's going to be more interesting and exciting. And I'm going to have a larger impact on the success, the profitability of the organization. I've always looked for people that want to get rid of their job. Find a way that I can stop doing this current work, more transactional, less strategic, and be able to get to the next generation as quickly as possible. Those are the types of people, those are the skill sets, and it's across the board. You need engineering experience. You need the marketing experience. You're going to need sales experience. You're going to negotiate more internal to the company than with your suppliers. And so you're going to have to get those relationships in place. And if you're going to move into the R&D space, you've got to be able to think about, what type of products and services are needed 5 years, 7 years, 10 years from now. That level of creativity is absolutely next generation requirements.
100%. Now, it's funny. I had a customer who we set up a category management agentic workflow for them to basically do a Porter analysis, a pestle analysis, a Kraljic matrix, should cost analysis, and cost breakdown structure, all done agentically. And he was like, Anders, it's too fast. It does too much. How are my people going to learn if all this just gets done for them? And he has a valid point. Like, how do you teach somebody that is just starting out the fundamental of a cost breakdown structure and a Porter analysis if it's just handed to them? So, like, to me, I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You and I know this because we've done it a billion times. But if it gets done for you, is it as effective?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's important for these people to be able to see and take action and see where they fit into the next generation of these activities. And then continuous learning is required. Every single person in my organization, you thought training was, that's a nice to have. No, it's imperative. You need to keep learning about what's the next generation of technology, how we can utilize it, be creative in that process. And we also understand that the CFOs are not going to go shower us with money and budget to make this thing happen. We've got to be creative. How do we fully utilize these tools, utilizing the supplier's current capabilities and their growth pattern, and then drive your suppliers to be able to take advantage. I'll suggest to you that buying new technology is one thing, but taking the technology you have and making sure that supplier is moving in the right direction means you have to be vocal in your relationship with those suppliers.
Yeah, and I absolutely love seeing customers get their hands on the AI builder to build their own agents. And you kind of see how they're thinking about it. And then you can teach them, say, no, you got to put the context in here to make sure you get the right output here. And then you take that output and put that into another context and move that forward. And you see the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool.
It's going to be critical for the organization, especially the leadership of the organization, to be able to have transparency. You need to have visibility in the work that's being done. And you have to find areas of inefficient resource allocation, meaning your team is just filled with work that's not valuable. It needs to be done, but it's just not good work for them to do so that they can be moved forward. Now, note, not everyone, and this is the hard part, not everyone is capable, competent. They all work hard. They're all good people, but there's always a limit. I mean, all those high school baseball players that never made it to college, and the college players that never made it to minor league, and minor league that never made it to pro, doesn't mean they didn't work hard. Doesn't mean they were amazing, wonderful people, but everyone has their level of limitation. And so as a leader, I'm always trying to hire the smartest people, get my suppliers to be able to take the next step at no additional cost to me, and then find the right tools that are going to create the visibility and the transparency. This is why, Anders, I've loved Focal Point, is because you see the work that's happening, and then you can manage it more effectively and then be able to drive better results with the same or less resources.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So for those of us who are on the chat channel, or if you want to talk about something specifically, if you have questions, like drop them in there. But now Roy and I are going to talk about the future episodes about how the future-proof procurement will impact certain things. But we certainly will have time. So episode number 2 is, what are the technical competencies that will be critical for the future leaders of procurement? Now, we touched a little bit about the thinking part of it, but what are the technical things that need to be done? And if you can give us like 2 sentences, Roy, because I know this is very hard for you.
Yeah.
So we'll try our best here to be.
So one of the things that I tell my students, because the Northeastern students come from wide background, engineering, international business, finance, accounting, marketing, a big widespread. And I said, you can become the engineering person inside of a supply chain working with your VP of engineering and your suppliers engineering groups and have an incredible career path working that skill set. And I believe that the technical skills that people are going to need are much more in line with their customers. So their internal customers, the engineering team, the production team, the manufacturing activity, the marketing team, the advertising, the finance organizations. They need people that can talk to you and understand the issues that they are having so that you can bring supplier solutions to bear on their problems going forward. That requires someone that is knowledgeable, has the language, has the understanding of those issues versus a generalist. Generalists are great, used them all the time. But quick story, I was at MetLife. I put a generalist person that understood consulting a little bit with my actuarial. And actuarial is literally the heart and soul of insurance, right? And he goes, Roy, I'll work with you, but don't give me someone that doesn't understand my business. And it's like, boom, bing, bang. It hit me so hard. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to hire people that are targeted to these areas if I'm going to be successful.
Yeah, 100%. Moving right along to episode number 3, and it's the opposite side of it. So soft skills. And I think this is one of the things that is always popular on LinkedIn is sort of the whole idea of emotional intelligence, connecting with your customer, making sure that, you're adding value, not just technically, but also, I was going to say emotionally, but that probably is not correct. Making sure you understand their business and so on. So you want to add a little bit to that, Roy?
Yeah, so we have to make friends and influence people. I need to influence my internal customers to explain our value. I mean, note, I grew up in military manufacturing where they had to use us. And that has its own side issues going forward. And then I went into financial services where they didn't even know we existed. I'm the chief procurement officer. What the hell is that? I said, well, we run procurement, all the suppliers. Like, I've never seen you people before in my life. So the idea is to train them, to explain to them the value you bring to the table, not just say, well, we're very important and we've got to be there at the table. I'll tell you, unless you're bringing value to those internal customers, they throw you right out. I always get a kick out of people that tell me, well, we should be at the CEO's table. I said, yeah, I sat at that table and they are very smart people. And if you don't bring not only your expertise, but the company's holistic expectations to the bear, you're gone. You're out of that table in a heartbeat. So be very, very aware of the fact that you've got to be talented in your skill set, your domain, but you have to have a holistic understanding, and you need to be able to hear and feel, be empathetic as a soft skill to your CIO, your CFO, your head of production, your head of design, your head of marketing, because they have their own set of issues and skills, and they realize if you're adding value to the supply chain that helps them get their goals done, you're in. You make it a burden, you slow them down, you become a problem, you're out.
It's very, very true. Episode number 4 is all about resilience and risk management. So this is something that we are so used to hearing about and talking about. And you touched about it very briefly earlier in terms of being able to react quickly, being able to figure out the impact of stuff. Add 2 sentences to this about why people want to tune into episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4. You all know how important it is. The risk management, we used to just paper it over and tell suppliers, well, if you mess up, you're going to have to pay. Like, that doesn't cut it. You, as a supply chain manager, you have to have the supply chains that's going to be risk mitigated. It has the right suppliers around the world, which is going to expand the number of suppliers. Guess what? When you go from 2 suppliers to 4 suppliers, it's going to be a difficult play on cost savings, but you have to be able to manage risk mitigation and cost savings by driving innovation, transparency, and eliminating all those things that make you more expensive. What I call be the low cost customer. Drive any excessive expenses, hurdles that the suppliers deal with you. They have to be eliminated. And you have to be faster, leaner, more effective, more transparent with your suppliers to be able to drive both risk mitigation, resilience, and lower cost structures.
Hallelujah. Couldn't agree more to that. The final episode that we have scheduled for now are all around ESG. And I think a lot of people go, what's that again? You know, I think it's taken somewhat of a backseat now, certainly in the United States, with the current focus. But we want to talk about ESG, and also G is also governance. So we have to keep that in mind. There's still going to be a lot of governance on your suppliers. So this is what I think is probably the best opportunity for agentic AI and orchestration, personally.
Oh. Absolutely. And governance is crucial. Governance is that transparency. Governance is you have policies, procedures. How do you run your organization? How do you have your suppliers run the organization? How do they fit in more effectively? But you have this concept that you are still an entity living and breathing in an environment. And the environment requires suppliers that support that local environment. I mean, diversification of your supply chain can be risk mitigated, but also can support your local environment, your local community. I mean, we all still live in communities, and we need to create businesses and create value in those communities. I did a study a long time ago. It says, when I was CPO at John Hancock, Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts, they had a deal to find out how does $1 million from John Hancock going into an organization in the local community impact the organization. So not only does it give the owner of the company money, yes, but their leadership skills, but also they hired more people from the community to meet those requirements. Mm-hmm. And those community members, they then bought from the local bakery, the local tire shop, the local supermarket. That money multiplied. So if you're an economist, it's the multiple of money to be able to say 4 and 5 time return. So for every dollar that went into the community, you get 5 times the amount of value. So the social element of this is critical. And of course, environment. We live in this tiny little circle in the middle of the universe that is limited on resources and has a real pollution problem. We need circular supply chains. We need to be aware of the products and services and the resources that we're using for our products and services and how we can get it back into the environment rather than just throwing it away in the dump.
Roy, I think everybody, including myself, loves your passion about these things, and you are almost as big of a procurement nerd as I am. So as we, So right now on the screen, there's a QR code that you can scan with your phone to learn all about our second episode that is about the tech shift in procurement tech. And while you sign up for next episode, Laura has a question related to autonomous sourcing. So she asks her questions like, and I'm going to summarize here, like, how do you see autonomous sourcing being impacting the business in 1 to 2 years? And
so the next 2 years, it is going to explode. Like every other technology, it is currently immature. It is doing C-level negotiations. It's doing early supplier discovery because you don't have the breadth and of information that the autonomous. Now remember, an AI engine can take feeds from thousands of sites and be able to understand which are the top 2 or 3. So areas that you just don't have the bandwidth to go after, the agentic AI solutions can start to give you suppliers you never even thought were a possibility, and now you can bring to bear. The agentic AI is actually going to start issuing RFPs where you would say, I don't have the time for this. I'm just going to call one supplier, and you tend to call the incumbent supplier, which is always not necessarily a bad move, but not necessarily the innovative move.
Well, if I'm a supplier, you definitely should do that. But any other time, not so much.
That's right. and then there's the opportunity of being able to negotiate these smaller items at the C level, which are significant risk and significant opportunities for savings, and then allows you to be able to collect data as to what their tier 2 suppliers are. The AI engines are going to start to understand what all the tier 2 players are, start to map it out so you can actually see the areas where one supplier is impacting a larger portion, where the choke point is, where the risk really is, and then where do you have to do to mitigate that risk by working with your suppliers effectively. So the next 2 years, you're going to see it popping up everywhere. Every single supplier is talking about their AI efforts. Many of them are still vaporware, so just be aware of vaporware. Mm-hmm. Talk is cheap. Show the results is what you're going to need. But you know what it needs more than anything else? It needs customers like you, procurement people that are educated and willing to invest. And invest meaning buy their services, buy that activity, give them the revenue stream that they need to be able to divide in that, and then give them your input, your insights to make it better, more personal, more appropriate for you and your industry. It helps the technology develop faster. And yeah, it's going to change out. Guess what? You got to be agile enough to be able to handle that. That's going to happen. It's not a big risk. Doing nothing is the big risk. So do something.
So with that, everybody, thank you so much for spending half an hour with us. We didn't think it was going to take half an hour, but somehow it did. Thank you so much for joining. Please drop us a note if you want to talk more. We're always interested to talk to procurement people about what they do every day, because guess what? We love procurement and we're passionate about it. So thank you so much for joining us, Roy, and we look forward to our next episode.
Absolutely. Have a good day.